Hey, welcome to Who's Left, a podcast about Indiana politics, history, and culture from an unapologetically leftist perspective. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington. This week, my first repeat guest, Tom Levon, is back, and we have a wide-ranging conversation about the 2024 statewide races in Indiana for governor and for Senate. Let's jump right into it. We dive deep. Enjoy. All right. Welcome back to Who's Left, Tom Levon. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. Back in the chair again. It's my same chair, but to the listeners, it seems like I'm in the guest chair that is a real chair.
I have a folding chair I keep in my bedroom. That's and a little rolly cart with my computer on it. That is my studio.
Yeah, that's the studio. I have. We both have mics from the ceiling coming down in front of us.
I did invest in a nice little arm mic.
Yeah, I honestly have one of those too. I just have not. It used to be attached to my desk. I haven't recorded anything in a hot second that felt like I needed that. So I just have my microphone on its little stand.
Well, very good. You sound great. So, as much as I would like to talk about the finer points of, I guess, audio video equipment.
Oh, no.
Let's talk about the state of the big races in Indiana in 2024. We've got a Senate race coming open as Mike Braun is choosing not to run for re-election. He's running for governor. We'll get to that. So we've got one candidate announced for that race. And then, as I said, governor, we've got three announced Republicans and one announced Democrat. We are going to get to them all here today. And I would like to start with the Senate race. We have, on the Republican side, Congressman Jim Banks has declared, and the Republican field has essentially been cleared for him. Mitch Daniels, former governor, thought about it, decided he didn't have the backing. I believe a couple others may have thought about it, but it's Banks' race to lose. Tom, I gave you a little bit of homework about Jim Banks. What'd you find? Well,
as it is as disappointing as it is unsurprising in a way. Now, I was sort of comparing these to one of the other people we're going to be talking about, Mike Braun, which it's almost verbatim. We'll get more to the Mike Braun differential that I thought was interesting. Just from the ignorant version of this. I say ignorant. The uninformed, if you are a person who is just looking these people up for the first time because you live a life and you have to work, go to sleep, and then get up and then go to work again, you might not know who the hell these people are. And I sure as hell didn't, because that's what I do.
Just a second here. Are you saying that I don't have a life? Because I do know these things. Why would you say something?
I'm talking to the uninitiated listener of this type of thing, to where like I'm more the representative of like you. Like I have some really other bullshit hobbies that take up my time and main brain power. This hobby, I would say that this is a hobby for some reason. That's not really a good way to say it. Is being politically minded shouldn't be a hobby. But in our current society, being politically minded almost is.
There is a political hobbyist is a actual label.
Yes. Yeah. And I come from the notion that like the reason that I am so politically minded is purely just the fact that I care about anything, not because I am the most well-informed person. And I think a lot of people on the left can fall into that category because you are an outlier in what you can handle. Because most often can't deal with a lot of this stuff. We were talking about this in the lead up to this outside of the podcast.
The pregame show, yeah.
Yeah. Not between me and you, but me and Brady were referring to this. I was like, oh yeah, I don't know a lot of these local things because you know, I am occupied still by the Ukraine war. Like that's a thing that I'm still putting brain power into because it's happening, and it's not even the only conflict that I really probably should be caring about, but like,
well, and I'll tell you what, Tom, and this is something maybe we could talk about some other time or another podcast. I've written about it a little bit, but the Ukraine war and the Republican extremism we see here at home are not part of a different war. This is part of the same war. Yeah.
This is a whole tangent can of worms that can be happening. I know, but like, I'm more referring to the, you know, some of this stuff can be really depressing, and like I'll go into deep dives of it, and it can preoccupy your time and your mental energy so much that it really does take away from your mental health at a certain point.
It makes you, and I do.
Yeah, and I will go through bouts of looking into stuff, and there's so much bad stuff going on that I can only know about so many assholes like DeSantis and Musk and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I only allow them to occupy so much, and they are the loudest, dumbest voices, so they get in there. This guy.
I was just gonna say, loud and dumb. That brings us right to Jim.
Yeah. This guy may be loud and dumb, but I guarantee you, he isn't as loud and as dumb as these other people, which isn't saying a lot. You know, looking at his. So also feeding into some of this stuff. And this will be a theme with some of these people we talk about.
Yeah.
Looking them up on a cursory glance, if you are uninitiated into these political parties and or like say you're we're going to say like a 30 to 50-year-old Republican in the state of Indiana, and I might be cutting too big of a swath with that.
Sure. Middle-aged Republican.
Yeah, like you're not going to
You're probably playing golf on a Sunday.
Yeah, like the nuances of some of these people's positions are going to be completely alien to you because you're also on the right dealing with some of the same things I'm saying, only you don't care as much, so you're not going to be as empathetically inclined to figure out what these stances mean for people who aren't you, right?
There's definitely like these Republican kind of code words that keep coming up, and they said that, you know, they say the same words in a very kind of carefully crafted political way. It's like, I don't know, to basically shine that turd real nice.
Yeah, that's another good way of saying it, is like, hey, you uninitiated person, here's this spin I'm putting in it, but there's a sub-spin of like, oh, you're an armchair Nazi on the internet? You also like this. This is some code words for you. That type of thing. And I'm, again, painting a wide swath with that statement I just made, I know, but who do I want next?
Yeah, let's zoom in on some more Jim's greatest hits here.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Yeah, in 2020, he had a little dust up with Minnesota Rep Ilhan Omar, who I adore.
I do know that one.
She said, given recent events in the Middle East, that she was stricken with PTSD. And this is somebody who had led civil war in her country when she was 8 years old and spent time in a refugee camp and has
This is
seen
already
some shit, man.
this is already going badly where this is going.
And Jim tweeted, it is a disgrace and offensive to our nation's veterans who really do have PTSD after putting their life on the line to keep America safe. And he said that in response to Omar claiming she is stricken with PTSD.
Hey, didn't you know only people in the armed forces can have PTSD? If you experience anything bad in your life or lived through a catastrophe, you do not get PTSD. That's a scientific fact. That was sarcasm? That was sarcasm for the people at home?
Yeah, that's our buddy Jim Banks. Real empathetic fellow. And Jim is also a big Trump guy and an election denier. He was...
Oh, is he? That was interesting.
Yeah, you wouldn't think, right? Well, he was one of 126 Republicans who signed an amicus brief in, I believe it was Texas versus Pennsylvania, which was a case brought before the Supreme Court contesting the results of the election. It got thrown out. They didn't even hear it. But he signed on to that. Go ahead.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I was going to say in my research here, Mike Braun, that him being an election denier is very much on the front page of information you can find out about him. And I was like, oh, that's the one difference between Jim Banks and Mike Braun here in their fucking policies and where they stand is I made me think that, like, oh, Jim Banks probably did not put his hands into that argument, but now you're telling me he did. But it is harder on the surface to find that.
He was actually
a little bit more loud about it.
Oh, well, let's continue about Jim Banks and his involvement in January 6th.
Oh, my God. Here we go.
Well, yes, after the violent insurrection had been put down and everybody gathered and they went to certify the election, Banks still voted against certification. Braun, as much as he talked about it in the lead-up, got cold feet, and he voted to certify that night.
Oh, wow. That's really...
But, so, Jim Banks' involvement with the January 6th drama does not end there. So, at first, he expressed support for a bipartisan commission to, investigate the roots of it, and later changed his mind on that when the Republicans' talking points became more, oh, this is somehow Nancy Pelosi's fault. Somehow, I don't get it. So when Pelosi and McCarthy were attempting to actually put together a bipartisan January 6th committee with an equal number of Republicans on it, Jim Banks and Jim Jordan from Ohio were two of the names that McCarthy put forward. Well, those guys, especially Jordan, Jordan was intimately involved with planning, allegedly. But yes, when all is said and done, Jim Jordan should probably hang for treason. Jim Banks, I don't know. But he was supposed to be put on that committee. Pelosi rejected him. McCarthy pulled all his guys, so we wound up with just Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger as the only Republicans on the January 6th committee. In October of 21, Cheney, who was the vice chair of the January 6th committee, revealed that Banks had been sending letters to federal agencies claiming to be the ranking Republican on that committee, even though he had been rejected from it.
That sure seems like something, at least in theory, or that seems like it should be illegal, right?
Yeah, that is
in some way
probably lying on a government form or something in some way. It's fraud, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the law would be, but it sure seems like you can't do that.
At the very least, it don't look good.
Yeah.
So, in a September 21 letter, he had requested information from the Department of Interior that they had sent to the committee. So he's trying to get secret information that he's not entitled to. And he wrote that Pelosi refused to allow me to fulfill my duties as ranking member, and signed the letter as ranking member, which he was not. Keep it classy, Jim. So, moving on, he declared his candidacy for Indiana State Senate in 24 in January of 23. And his big claim to fame right now is that he is the leader and founder and chair of the House Anti-Woke Caucus.
Okay, I gotta ask this question, and I know this may be like superfluous based on the way that you presented it to me, but at the same time, is that real?
Yes, it is. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I don't know if you remember in 2008. This is very early in the primary process. When Joe Biden was still running against Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. This was before he dropped out and it became a two-person race.
Oh shit! That information
not even ran that year, don't they? Right? But one thing he did in that primary was he totally throttled the candidacy of Rudy Giuliani, who was running and thought to be the front runner at one point for the 2008 Republican nomination.
Man, how the mighty have fallen, right?
Well, Joe said, I believe it was in a debate about Rudy Giuliani, that every sentence out of his mouth is a noun, a verb, and 9/11.
Man, that dark Brandon sting right there.
But the Republican Party now, everything out of their mouth is like a noun, a verb, and woke.
Yeah.
All right. For example, let's see what Jim Banks here has to say about woke, and I'm going to try and give you a little video clip here. Here we go.
For the most part, most Republicans are now awakened to this fact that wokeness is weakness. It's a cancer that's eating America from inside out. You look at the recruiting numbers in the United States military, way off of its goals, because many of our troops are telling us they're sick and tired of spending all of their time on diversity and inclusion training, not on how to fight wars and compete with our enemies like China and Russia. We have the 1619 project being pushed on kids in our schools and teaching them that America.
Hey. You know what? People don't want to protect this country because we care about people. That is only one thing I have to say about what he just said. That is basically that is some mighty propaganda right there. And not to throw the old N-word around, but sure to seem kind of Nazi-ish, just a little bit. Hey, you care about people? That's weakness. You want to support people? That's weakness. That's sort of like a big conservative thing. Oh, you care? You're weak and pathetic. You're a pussy. Mm-hmm. Like, that is sort of what he has summed up there. And it's pretty fucking wild to hear that. The supposition that caring is not what this is about, and at the same time, the cognitive dissonance of being like, these people can't serve. Hey, serving and patriotism and defending your country, you have to care a lot to do that. And you're telling me that these people don't. These people care more about the things that he said that I don't believe are a problem for a lot of armed service people. or is enough to make them not want to be in the military and defend their country. You're telling me that people don't want to defend their country as much as they don't want to hear about quote unquote wokeness?
Yeah, well, they want diversity, like eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're talking about, oh, we have to spend all the time, and it's like this is telling you how to be a better comrade with your fellow soldiers.
Yeah,
it boggles the mind, And again, the leadership of the Department of Defense, they are on board with the DEI and examining the full history of this country. So let's move on from Mr. Banks, because I can't stand talking about him anymore. And talk about the Indiana governor's race next year. We've got 3 Republicans announced already, including Senator Mike Braun, who we've talked a little bit about. Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch is also in the mix, as well as Fort Wayne businessman Eric Doden. Let's start with Doden here. So he is a businessman from Fort Wayne. And here we go. Serves as president of Pago USA and is a founding partner of both Domo Development LLC and Domo Ventures LLC. He has 20 plus years of financial and investment experience in a variety of industries, including Tier 1 automotive, sporting good manufacturing, steel, construction products, and real estate development.
So you're telling me his job is moving money around. Am I understanding that correctly?
I do not know exactly what all those ventures do, but yeah, it's financial and investment experience in those industries. So
it's a lot of industries to have your fingers in, and not just one. It's I don't know what we can extrapolate from it, but I feel like it means something. What that is, I do not know. Anyway, continue.
Well, so my first big red flag on Doden here is that he attended Hillsdale College. Now, Hillsdale College is like this evangelical, private, conservative, school up in Michigan.
Okay.
And they are responsible for like a lot of the extreme conservative,
religious further
theocratic, Christian nationalism philosophy that is coming out of there.
Yeah. The other pillar of ultra conservatism is Christianity.
Yes, and these Christians in particular are very, very controversial. And fun fact about Hillsdale College that most people don't know is that like Pat Sajak is deeply involved with it.
Okay.
I shit you not.
Okay.
A lot of their trustees and stuff are DeVos, Van Andel, Prince family, kind of the West Michigan oligarchs. But yes, Pat Sajak, is chairman of the board of Hillsdale College.
I feel betrayed on some level, even though I didn't watch Wheel of Fortune all that much.
Yeah.
Is there a K,
Pat? There are 3 Ks. But that's enough about Pat Sajak. So our buddy Doden here, the wealthy Fort Wayne businessman, looking at his platform, it is 100% conservative red meat. He talks about defending the Second Amendment. He's 100% pro Second Amendment. Whatever that means. I don't know. Apparently that means you can have fighter jets, tanks, and nuclear arms. At least how I interpret it.
I don't know. Like, yeah, like it's like, again, it's one of those things that it becomes a talking point to the point that it loses its meaning when you say shit like that.
So his big issue, and of course he's like, here he says it's 100% pro-life. And
so he's against the death penalty, right?
He doesn't say what he thinks about the death penalty.
Doesn't say that.
But I money has it. He's okay with that kind of killing. But his biggest issue is free adoption. That's what he's pushing. Is we're going to make abortion illegal, but adoption 100% free. Here, take a baby.
I gotta say, like, in a lot of that is actually pretty unique for a lot of these guys. These in this just because we don't hear that very often. That's like, you're so close to the right answer with some of that, like with that right there, that kind of line of thinking, but you're missing the point so dramatically. Like, oh, you're so close. Like, oh, let's make adoption free. Cool. Yeah, that's actually one good idea.
It's like that is a way to deal with it. Yes,
it's you're beating around a solution there for sure. It's not a bad idea. It's weird. It's just weird when everyone else that's against abortion certainly
At least
doesn't
he's
make
thinking
that.
about some sort of solution.
Yeah,
And
it's
not. And
weird.
it's not like, have we thought about stoning the women to death yet?
I mean, yeah, and both you and me are having this reaction to it, but really, I think we've been hit with so many wild generalizations that are usually actually true about conservatism that this one instance where it's like, well, they all can't be thinking the same thing is happening, but we're still like, oh, this is like out of left field for us right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, or I don't know. We could maybe, like, help people make good decisions on their own, and give people like real valuable true sex ed and access to contraception and all that, and then help mothers with the tax code and stuff later. But no,
maybe make
all
maybe not focus on America being a capitalist hellscape where if you fall under a little bit, you're doomed, like a social support systems. What are those? I don't fucking know. But it's interesting. I hate to tangent us again, but I feel like it's got to be talked about a little bit. The state of like abortion in America and how like I can't tell. This is the point I'm really trying to get at. The point is that how much understanding do they actually have of abortion? Because you and me have heard enough about this topic to know the social strain that this causes a society. How many Republicans are banking on that social strain to broaden their power and platform versus how many Republicans are ignorant of it and are just using it as a talking point and don't really understand it? How much of it is directed evilness versus general evil incompetence? That question is what really boggles the mind, because this guy right here, right now, seems like the latter and not the former.
I do not doubt the sincerity of a lot of people who are pro-life. I get it. If it is your deeply held religious belief that life begins at conception. I understand the way you feel that way. However, we, have a thing called freedom of religion in this country, and your deeply held religious beliefs shouldn't infringe upon the rest of us. But I don't doubt their deeply held religious beliefs. But yes, there are a large number of Republicans who are explicitly counting on the social fabric being frayed and society falling apart so they can scoop up the remains and build a Christian fascist country out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, like how many people can we disenfranchise with saddling them with an unwanted pregnancy to where they're not standing in our way? Like, is that like, it's like anytime I hear one of the Republicans talking about like, oh, abortion's bad, all this blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I just have to look at them. I'm like, what side of evil are they? And I'm using like real, just like visceral terms when I say evil. Like that's maybe too extreme for just an actual nuanced take on it. But like, I don't know, some of these people are fucking ghouls. And I'm like,
yes, absolutely.
Like, do they think they're doing the right thing, or do they straight like? I always lean towards they fucking know better. They know better.
Look at Banks. Banks is a ghoul. Is Doden a ghoul? I don't know about the guy. His Hillsdale education leads me to believe things.
Yeah, you have a good point there.
Let us move on and talk about Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, who so far is pulling most of the endorsements from fellow Republicans. For whatever that's worth, Braun will still be the overwhelming favorite. He's got the money and the name recognition. But let's talk about Crouch. She's from Evansville. She used to serve in the House from 2005 to 14. She was state auditor, and she's been lieutenant governor since 2017 with Eric Holcomb. On the economy, she, typical Republican talking points, pro-growth, tax cuts, deregulation, but she also has spoken out in favor of free trade agreements, which was always typically the Republican talking point, but your Trump populist Republicans are much more like, hey, let's bring back tariffs. Hot take, unpopular Democratic take. I think Trump's right on
that. I can't say, honestly. It's been a good many years since I've had to know anything about tariffs. I do remember knowing something about them, but that information has been replaced in my brain by Halo lore. So I don't know anything about tariffs.
Short story. I'm a big fan of a good tariff. I think domestic goods should be cheaper than international goods. I think regional goods should be cheaper than far away goods.
Seems logical.
If we're gonna get anywhere toward reducing the human carbon footprint and making this a livable planet, I think we've got to cut out a lot of shipping. There's a lot of unnecessary shipping and transport of goods right now.
As a person who works in logistics, yes.
Fuck your job, Tom. No.
Oh, well, no
job.
Yeah. Well, my job isn't quite as sweeping as some of the logistics industries, but I'll tell you this right now. The other day, I'm driving down the highway in whatever truck I'm driving, and I look around and I'm like, why are there so many semis here? And then I'll go over a railroad track and I'll look left and right, and there's no railroad track anymore. And I'm like, oh. And they didn't bother ripping the part of the street up with the railroad track on it. That's definitely going to degrade the infrastructure because they didn't just pave it over or something.
Oh, it's I'm like historical.
But they did rip it up in either other direction for some reason. I don't know why, but and I'm just like, why is there literally on this highway from looking forward to where I can't see the highway anymore to looking back in my mirrors, literally like a semi every other car length? Like that's a huge amount of I'm like, is that more or less expensive than having your goods shipped on a train to like a city center and then redistributed from like a city center? Like, I feel like there's something here I'm missing.
You know what? There's a city planning guy. There's a couple city planning guys I talk to on Twitter. I'd like to have them on sometime because, regional city-based hub and spoke models is going to be your most carbon efficient way to do things. And
the only thing I can think of it's cheaper industry wise. Because a lot of your CDL drivers sometimes own their own semis, so you're paying individual. It's almost like a gig economy on a grand scale.
It absolutely is. This is actually happened during the Carter administration when they started deregulating the trucking industry. It didn't used to be that way, Tom. Y'all have been fucked.
I don't know. We're getting really into the area of stuff I don't know about. This
right, and we're getting into nothing to do with Suzanne Crouch. So back to NAFTA. So she is on education. She talks about increasing funding for schools and teacher quality, but she's a vouchers, charter school, quote unquote school choice advocate.
Don't like that.
Yeah, not a fan of that, but that's what you're going to get from all your Republicans, basically. She did support Medicaid expansion, though she does still support the repeal of Obamacare. Those are her healthcare issues. On social issues, big conservative, abortion opponent, same-sex marriage opponent. God, at least Todd Young's better on that. My God, can we get with the
bingo card? The fucking bingo card on these people.
Yeah. So here we go. I've got a horseshit clip of Suzanne Crouch I would like to play for you here.
Well, and to put a finer point on that, when then Governor Mike Pence was in office, there was the religious objections bill, which drew a lot of criticism from international brands. Then under current Governor Eric Holcomb, there was the most recent abortion restrictions, which even Eli Lilly said may force it to grow outside of the state. Are there any areas on either the social side or any kind of political side that you worry that the state legislature may be going too far and against the state goals?
Well, what we have to understand and appreciate is those legislators, the senators and the representatives, are elected by the people that they serve. And the people actually have them there to be their voice in the General Assembly. I think we have to be respectful of that.
No, Suzanne. No. The people did not pick that. The abortion ban, all the book bans that they're doing now, the religious freedom stuff that they've been doing under Pence, it's all been unpopular, and it's always been unpopular. And the reason those representatives are in Indianapolis is because our districts are gerrymandered to shit, and we don't have a choice. So no, that is not what the people have sent them there for. Anyway, that's my Suzanne Crouch rant.
Yeah, that's the typical cognitive dissonance that we are living with every day, right there. Like people literally showing the map of the gerrymandered map of America, and they're like, well, how is this fair? Like, no, it's a good thing that we don't let these people on the left have power. I'm like, what do you mean? Most of the people are on the left. That's what you're missing.
They know, and they don't care.
Oh no, some people don't fucking know. I got into a debate with a person, just one person about this, and I'm like, but they are the majority. And I'm saying left. People on there's most most people, and it's sort of all encompassing of a lot of the social issues in this episode that we've talked about, the trans issues, the LGBT issues, the issues of race, issues of abortion and stuff. A lot more, the majority of people in the United States pertain to a live and let live way of life. Like, nobody really wants to bother anybody. And a lot of opinions around it are mixed in with people trying to weaponize it, that it's a problem for other people's way of life, when it isn't a problem. And that's why, that's like the whole argument, isn't it? Is that
the entire religious freedom argument is like you're violating my religious freedom by existing as a trans person.
Yeah, you have to weaponize other people. You have to
logic.
Yeah, you have to. They are weaponizing, like, people just existing, like, to have an enemy, right? And that's a lot of the problem here. And they're trying to make victims where there are no victims. So people who aren't totally unempathetic will be like, oh, well, that's a problem. What about the kids? Somebody please think of the children.
Well, the Christian right loves to think they are being persecuted. They live for it. It's like, because the early Christians were persecuted in Rome, they think that, if they're persecuted the same way, that they can be martyrs the same way or some shit. It's like, throw me to a lion, daddy. But
this is sadly a audio medium. The look on Scott's face was hilarious. Anyway, all right.
But yes, anyway,
on the agenda.
We're going to talk about Mike Braun, who is the leader in any polling that you're going to see right now. He's polling about 40-50% in the Republican primary. Current sitting senator since 2018. It's only one term that he's serving. He's from Jasper, went to Wabash College, has an MBA from Harvard. Yes, real salt of the earth, down.
That's a
down
real
home,
big,
rugged, rural Hoosier.
What you just said, though, is a big tonal whiplash. It's like, okay, he went here, he went there. Yeah, I've heard of those places. Harvard. What?
Yeah. And he has levied that Harvard MBA into quite a successful business career.
Not suspicious at all.
Yeah, well, so let's see. It says here that he joined his father's business building truck bodies for farmers. Then in the 80s, farmers were kind of hit hard and the business almost went under. And our boy Mike, steered the business toward selling truck accessories and grew from 15 employees to more than 300. Him and his business partner acquired Meyer Body in 1986. They manufacture truck bodies and truck parts and equipment. Braun bought him out in 95, and our boy Mike is now worth between $35 and $96 million as of 2008, which is quite a wide gap.
Yeah.
I formerly served on the Jasper School Board, briefly served in the State House of Representatives before running for Senate. So in 2018, he beat Joe Donnelly 51-45, and it comes to find out a year after that, the Indianapolis Star reported in 2019 that Braun's campaign the previous year was the beneficiary of $2.8 million in spending from a political action committee associated with indicted money launderer Lev Parnas. And I don't know if you know that name. He's one of these guys.
That sounds familiar.
Was sort of like Ukrainian guy tied back with like Rudy Giuliani in shady business dealings and stuff.
I knew I heard that name before because of the one. It sounds like a ridiculous name. That was a hot issue here somewhat recently. I do remember that.
Well, and all that stuff is still going on as they're looking into all that with oh my God, Giuliani's going down so hard, poor dumb bastard. But that's a guy who
he should have shut the fuck up. Yeah, he should have shut the fuck up a long time ago, and he still would be so fondly remembered.
Like if he would have just disappeared in like 2002. Rudy Giuliani would never have to buy a drink anywhere, which is good because apparently he likes to drink a lot, which has nothing to do with Mike Braun.
Yeah,
who
I have a lot to say about Giuliani. Let's continue with Braun.
Yes. I really, it's so much fun. I do try to be an Indiana podcast, but there's such a colorful
rogues gallery.
So we did talk about Braun, how he was an election denier until his life was endangered, and then he
flipped real quick. Also, to kind of talk about that, it feels very suspicious in a different way when the left was like, all right, yeah, let's do a bipartisan investigation at it. And then he's like, I gotta go. It makes it feel more like, oh, they were really going to investigate it. And he has some sus connection to it.
Oh, what, regarding Banks or regarding Braun?
Braun, because Banks stuck with it.
But
Banks was way more suspicious on the surface, but it makes me feel like Braun was like, saw the writing on the walls and like, well, this might really happen. I can't get investigated by a bipartisan committee, and then found that I had something to do with it. I gotta get out of here.
My understanding at this point is that Braun wasn't exactly like an insider on that. I mean, like any Republican, he was scared shitless of Trump and his base and didn't want to say anything against him. Probably went along with all the election denial stuff. And, when it counted, he flipped, I guess. Congratulations. You've cleared the lowest bar.
So your take on that, I think, is a lot closer to probably accurate. He saw a different writing on the walls and was like, all right, this is actually bullshit. I'm getting out of here.
I haven't seen him indicated in any of the planning on the Senate side, like, say, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, the guy from Iowa, Chuck Grassley. You know how old Chuck Grassley is? He's 247 years old. Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, maybe Tommy Tuberville from Alabama. I think those are the Senate guys who allegedly may have, had foreknowledge. I don't think Braun did. I don't know. That doesn't absolve him of just being god awful. And on that note, I think it's time for another clip.
Oh, here we go.
You okay with the Supreme Court leaving the question of interracial marriage to the states?
Yes, I think that's something that if you're not wanting the Supreme Court to weigh in on issues like that, you're not going to be.
Wow, Mike Braun. That was our senator from Indiana, Mike Braun, coming for 1967's Loving versus Virginia, that made interracial marriage legal across all 50 states. Ooh, cringe, buddy. As the kids say,
sort of
that is cringe.
It is sort of the like institutional racism that the mightiest Republicans won't be like, that's too woke. That's wokeness right there. They won't fucking gather under that banner because they're like, we're not doing that anymore. And here he is, like, I mean, it's soft. It's definitely a softer version of racism for sure, but it's still like
that's good old fashioned fascism.
Yeah, you should have had maybe a more nuanced take to just kind of brush that off, or like just had something better to say up your sleeve.
Yeah, so that was an embarrassing moment for Mike. I guess he tried to walk it back a couple days later, but that's just like, oh shit, I said what I really felt.
I mean,
how do I fix this?
Walking it back a few days later is so pointless. It's like, oh, people are mad at me, and it took me a few days to say sorry. Like, you're not sorry.
Nope. He's sorry he got caught. He's sorry he let the mask slip. Sorry he took his hood off there for a second. So that is the Republican field for the big statewide races in 24. On the Democratic side, we got a whole lot of nothing. Right now, there is not a single Democrat announced for Senate at all. We've heard Donnelly's name tossed about. Maybe he's coming back. You know, the meek, mealy mouth centrist who only won his race in, what would that have been, 2012, the first time, because his opponent was so heinous. That was Richard Murdoch. Do you remember Richard Murdoch?
I do. Murdoch is the one that was like, hey, if you get raped and you get pregnant, I guess that's just God's will.
That's
no. I believe what he actually said was, if you get raped, and you can just turn off getting pregnant. That's how women's biology works, right? That's how.
I believe his quote was something like, if it's a legitimate rape, the woman's body has a way of shutting these things down.
Which
no.
We can't get into this. But I'm glad that was enough to make him not win.
Would that be enough in Indiana now? Like,
it depends on. Here's what I want to think about that. It depends on how good the people you have spinning something is. If you can bury that information, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's now or then. The problem is that this guy got the fuck out there in front of everybody, and it blew up. It was a bunch of information. He said it, on video at like a thing that people generally get up and say in front of people anyway. That is the type of thing that, like, you got to be good at spin. And I mean, one of the things is Trump is good at spin, and he says fucking nonsense bullshit all the fucking time. But he makes it sound good. You can't. The way he presented that statement, I don't care who you are, it doesn't sound good, right? Like, if you're the most stringent Republicans, if they have at least a cursory knowledge of biology, at the bare minimum, they're like, well, that doesn't make it. That's not how that works. You know, it's bad. It's a bad take. Yeah. No wonder he torpedoed himself, you know.
Well, right. And there were enough Republicans who either, voted across the aisle for Donnelly back then, or just, like, didn't vote for Murdoch because he was that heinous. Again, congratulations. Thank you. I don't know if the Republican base would do that anymore. Is the interracial marriage thing going to slow down Braun next year? I mean, I don't think it's going to slow him down in the primary. I think
here's the thing. This comes back to the spin. I don't think people know. Like we one of the how do I curtail this? That sort of is overarching to your podcast too. Like, you have me on here who's fairly ignorant locally, and part of that is our modern sort of pop culture environment that we live in. And when I say that, I mean I haven't had cable since I was 22. Where am I going to get local news from? I guarantee you all of the online media I am a part of is global at this point. Most of this stuff, there's just not you have to be invested in it already. And we are, as a society, so overly taxed for our attention about political issues. You know, we're paying attention to the fucking idiot in Florida who can't shut the fuck up with Puddin' Ron, you know.
Oh, bless your heart, Puddin'.
Like that's such a problem that like some dude whose most problematic thing that's out in the open is that he said that very sort of like regal statement about the Supreme Court and interracial marriage, and it's not so incendiary. That shit goes under the radar. That goes under the radar for your Republicans and your Democrats, your conservatives and your lefts. It's just not as attention grabbing, and it will be a problem. People like you, Scott, definitely are bringing it to attention. I have personally heard of it, but I've forgotten it because it's just not the biggest insane thing I've ever heard. That's, and you know, I don't have access to. I don't have a cable television in my home with the local news, and then these people saying this every day. That's the world we live in. Is damaging to local politics in this way. I say that on a state level. Mm-hmm. Your town, I think you probably might know what's going on a little bit better because the people you talk to, your town, your city, but your state legislator, it's like if everybody isn't riled up and talking about it, I don't know about it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, there's a variety of reasons, and you know, cable is one of them. And the 90s, and Newt Gingrich very much made a point of making all politics national. And then, you know, now you got your Fox News and your MSNBC and everything, and that's all they talk about. All the news talks about is, you know, what's going on in Washington. They hardly ever talk about what's going on in Indianapolis. They never talk about what's going on, you know, your local city council or whatever. You know, like down here in Bloomington, the Herald Times got bought by Gannett, which I believe is also the parent company of the Indianapolis Star. Gannett owns a ton of newspapers across the country, and they just kind of, you know, fire all the staff and, you know, have the same articles kind of running in all the newspaper. They may have, like, you know, local high school sports that's different, you know, but the coverage is just not good anymore. Local journalism's dead, so it's going to be on, you know, the Democrats, you know, Braun's opponent to point out all of his heinous statements from the past. And it looks like at this point, the only Democrat in the governor's race is a former Republican.
Right, which could mean so many things.
So yeah,
it means so much stuff. My knee-jerk reaction, because so here's my journey in researching her. Came up with a very boilerplate nothing. A cursory level investigation. She has no hot headlines. Her Wikipedia page, on a very regular run through, has nothing wild about it.
There's not really a lot in there, no.
So it leads me to believe that the reason that she was a former Republican is probably because she's comes from an upper middle class background, probably Carmel, Fishers, or one of those areas.
She is actually from Yorktown, which is outside of Muncie. I do not know anything about Yorktown, if that is Muncie's.
It sounds like
as it were. But,
for somebody in the logistics field, it sounds like a township. It's basically a suburb of a suburb, and is what I'm gathering.
Sure. So yeah, we'll give you the backstory on Jennifer McCormick here. So she was a public school special ed teacher, then later moved on to teach language arts in middle school. Became a principal at the elementary school there in Yorktown in 2004, assistant superintendent in 2007, and superintendent in 2010. She serves on the boards for Ivy Tech East Central Region, the Indiana Association of School Business Officials, and the Delaware County Youth Salutes. She ran for Indiana State Superintendent of Public Instruction, like we said, as a Democrat in as a Republican in 2016.
I gotta ask, because I saw that statement and I just didn't have time to click on it. What the hell does that position entail?
That's, every state's probably got a different name for it, but that's like, your state school superintendent or head of the Department of Education, basically.
In the same article, it mentioned like state superintendent as though it was a different thing. So I don't know if that's just the trying to use more common language to describe what the position is, or
well, the position no longer exists, and I will sort of get to that here in a second. So her predecessor was Glenda Ritz, a Democrat, and she got into constant conflict with it was Governor Pence at the time, and the Republican state legislature. Yeah, because she didn't want to put up with vouchers and sending money to private schools and whatever kind of testing regime they were trying to introduce. And so McCormick was elected in 2016 to replace Ritz, and everybody thought, great, there's a Republican here now. She's going to go along with all the stuff that we want to do. Well, here is from Indiana Chalkbeat, quote, McCormick's Republican backers were optimistic she'd carry out Indiana education policy with more skill and aplomb as well. But even before she was elected, McCormick started differentiating her education policy philosophies from her fellow Republicans through her skepticism of diverting dollars from public schools and her calls for more accountability for charter schools and private schools accepting taxpayer-funded vouchers, unquote. So basically the same things as Ritz was advocating for. So McCormick did not seek a second term. Her quote was, she's disheartened by how politics and behind-the-scenes conversations have made it difficult to do her job of carrying out education policies.
Interesting.
Yeah, so basically it sounds like her position, Republican. Yes, exactly. So it sounds like, okay, so here's one of your centrist Republicans,
which is a wild concept, and it makes it seem like when you say centrist Republican, it operates the same way, the opposite almost as a centrist does, where a centrist usually just leans fucking Republican, and this sounds like not so much.
Well, I'm really
talking semantics, so this is not important to
it doesn't even seem like she was necessarily anti-charter school or, anti-funneling taxpayer money to private schools through vouchers. It was just like, hey, maybe we should have some accountability and not give all our money to this private Christian school who tells you that 2 + 2 = Jesus.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't seem terribly, radical as a position.
Yeah.
So,
it's only radical in context of comparison.
And we were talking about, not seeing a lot out there for her in terms of, just information and like what she even stands for. It's like, okay, so you're not a Republican and you want to get back to, Hoosier values and common sense. And, that's what they always tell you, right? It's the same thing for everybody.
Boilerplate responses.
But, it doesn't really say what she's for exactly. This is from her campaign website. Jennifer's running for governor of Indiana because she's tired of the supermajority's focus on fringe issues that have nothing to do with the challenges everyday Hoosiers are facing. It's time to stand up to elect a leader that puts Hoosiers first. She will bring common sense and bipartisanship back to the State House. Jennifer will stand up to policies that are dismantling public education, stripping Hoosiers of their rights and freedoms, and leaving rural communities behind. I mean, great. That's nice. That's a, very
All right, I got some
Empty
thoughts on that. I got some thoughts on that. It sounds almost like she wants to be more radical, but doesn't want to disenfranchise the Republican base. That's what my takeaway could be from that. And I mean, granted, what you're saying could easily be true as well. And I might be, this statement may be overly optimistic from my point of, from coming from me. It's like, are you saying the things that we're saying, but you're trying to code it like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like maybe we shouldn't be disenfranchising minorities and making these quote unquote like fringe issues right there is basically like code for people is what I'm gathering. It's like, are you trying to say that we shouldn't be doing this? Is that what you're trying to say? Maybe you just say it, but in Indiana, that could be not the way to go.
I think what she's saying, and I agree with her, is that the Republican supermajority is spending all of their time on, trans issues, other LGBTQ issues, book bans, culture war stuff,
that's what I'm getting from that too.
Like, and she's saying, like, hey guys, cut it out. Fine. I agree with that Republicans are not focused on the right stuff. Now, my problem is going to be, okay, Jen, you ran as a Republican on the ticket in 2016 where Donald Trump was the top Republican on my ticket. So what do you actually stand for?
Yeah, what are you bringing to the table now? Like, what is your, like, let's hear some passion out of that instead of the wink, wink, nudge, nudge that is implied but may not be there. Like, what is this sort of standard politician statement you've made that isn't anything?
My fear is that this is the exact same campaign every statewide Democrat has been running in this state for the last dozen years. We talked about Joe Donnelly. Joe Donnelly did it. It's like, hey, I'm a Democrat, but like, I'm basically a Republican, except, it's like, I have Hoosier values. I stand for the flag and small business. Okay, like, what do you actually stand for?
No politician ever is going to come out and say, I'm against small business. Like, that's a non-statement you're making.
Like, show me some fierce advocacy for, LGBTQ people. Show me some fierce advocacy for progressive economics. Show me real environmental advocacy. What are we going to do in Indiana in 25 years when the corn don't grow no more?
Oh, boy.
Like, we need to be thinking about those things. And look, I'm sure Jennifer McCormick is lovely and very nice, and we're wasting our breath now because there's not going to be anybody running against her. And I will vote for her, smack my head against the wall, just like I do voting for every Democrat. And I'm afraid that it's the exact same campaign that Joe Donnelly ran, that Evan Bayh ran, that Woody Myers ran, that Tom McDermott ran. They're all
It's not anything enough to get people excited, rallied behind you, or to change people voting the way that they always vote. And in Indiana, that's a big problem.
It's like, my concern with the Democratic Party in this state is that we just don't get it yet. And we keep trying to chase like disaffected Republicans, and that's fine. Like, welcome, disaffected Republicans. We appreciate your vote. But as if you try and adjust your party platform to the right to keep scooping these people up, you're alienating the people back over on the left. Like, and I don't see people, and on Indy's east side. I don't see people in Fort Wayne or Gary rushing to vote for her.
Yeah, I mean, it might be happening. It might not matter because typically what are our 4 fucking cities that we have? Like South Bend, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, Bloomington, Evansville are probably going to vote blue. But
I'll tell you what, I was talking to Gary Snyder up in Fort Wayne. Well, he's in Huntington, but up in that corner of the state a couple months ago. And he said in the last election that Fort Wayne city turnout was like 33%. So, and that was with,
I mean, with the way the districts are, does that even matter? If 33% show
statewide races, blue, it matters.
Okay,
that is important.
That's important then.
So if we're going to avoid having, fascist Jim Banks or Ava Braun over there as our top statewide elected officials after next year, we need a serious pushback. And I, this is not a time for meek centrism.
Yeah. That's basically the nail on the head for a lot of our Democratic people we have. And this one example we have here is a flipped Republican, so it's a really unique example. But we have a lot of fucking Democrats out here that basically are meek centrists that get nothing really working for anybody at all ever.
Yeah, well, because if you wanted to vote for a Republican, you'd just vote for a goddamn Republican. Give me... Not me. I'm a political sicko. We talked about this already. I'm going to vote anyway. Give somebody that wasn't going to come out and vote a reason to come out and vote. Yeah. Indiana Democrats, quit doing the same thing, or you're going to lose 60-40 again.
Yeah. There was a statistic you threw out there that was like, what was it, like 51 to like 49, or I think it was 51 to 45.
Yeah, there was a libertarian in it.
Man, that Yeah, isn't that always the statistic that we're looking at though? Since since the first Trump election, a few states, it's like, oh, there's some libertarians sucking up the air in this room for some reason.
Well, look, honestly, I can't stand libertarians, and I think it's a childish worldview, but I'd like to see them have an equal opportunity in every race. Same with the Greens, same with whoever. I can't stand the two-party system. It's horrible. But I don't think we can break the two-party system monopoly unless Democrats win and willingly, enact some sort of election reform. But good luck with that, right?
Yeah, and that's like one of those things that when like monumental shifts happen, I don't think we'll see it coming, and then it'll be wild when it happens. To break a two-party system is a grand thing that if it's going to happen, I don't think we're going to see it coming. Honestly, I don't think we're going to see incremental changes over the course of like 5 decades to see it happen.
I don't know.
It's gonna be like one of those weird things that happen.
Well, it's kind of like the way things have happened, like in 2016 with the Trump election. Like, it was 50 years worth of Republican activism. Pushing the envelope, and then like boom, fascism.
Yeah, and I mean, are you saying that is incremental change like, all of a sudden?
Gradually, and then all at once.
In my opinion, in my opinion, that's all of a sudden, and that's sort of what I am referring to in that nature. It will be something like that where it's like, oh, over the course of like 16 years, it's like incremental, boom. It's like, and we already have some of that base now with Sanders doing the things that he's saying. I'm not saying that Sanders is going to ever clinch anything because Democrats hate him.
Well, I mean, Bernie Sanders is also 150 years old.
Yeah, that's the shame. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to see him again.
Nor should we. I mean, look, keep doing what you're doing, Bernie. Great job, but
But we don't need another. We don't need another Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah, the problem with our leadership in general is that they're all ancient, and it's time for a new.
Yeah, I'm going to send you an image real quick. I'm going to send you an image on Facebook real quick. If you want to hop over to your DMs and see that. That's we don't need to.
Oh, God damn it. Oh, man. That's fucked up.
I just sent Scott a SpongeBob meme. Those who know. But yeah. I agree that we do not want that to really happen, but at this point, I'll take it. I will sacrifice this man on the altar of a better world and his aging health. If we can get him in there, I'll take it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's has a little bit more wherewithal to stick it out to try to be run for president again for his own health. Wise, like I don't think he's gonna do it, but if he does it, I'm willing to trot this old man out to just for the sake of the rest of us. Sacrifice him on the altar of improving.
Better or worse, I think the very fate of American democracy lies in the hands of Joe Biden next year, and that's scary.
Let's pray for Dark Brandon's arrival. Are you familiar?
I know all about the
with
Dark
Brandon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, sometimes, Scott, I don't know where you're at with meme culture, but man, I am hoping and praying. I'm not praying. I'm an atheist, but I'm hoping for Dark Brandon to really turn up in here and just it's like, hey, you're an old man. What are you gonna do? Just do it. Just do it. Do all the things right now and get away with it. What are you gonna do? Who are you disenfranchising? You got nothing to lose. Put on the sunglasses. Do something.
Yeah, I don't know. If we were gonna see like real balls out Dark Brandon, I think he would have already told Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema to take a hike and get out of the party. He'd have told Kevin McCarthy, no, I'm not negotiating with terrorists. I invoke the 14th Amendment. Fuck you. But
yeah, that is totally the right, making him sound way cooler than he is.
But that's what we got. That's two-party system in America, baby.
And with that, I think we're coming to the end. Do we got anything else to say about our
let's bring this thing home. Here? No, you know what?
It feels like we're on the
I am just reiterating my call for Indiana Democrats in general to go big, go progressive. We've been going centrist. We've been going diet Republican for years. It's not working. You lose every time. Yeah. Do something different.
And Indiana is following. This is a national trend. This is an Indiana thing. That what you're saying is 100% Indiana thing. It is also a national thing on all state levels, even on federal levels. We are getting diet conservatism, and it's time to fucking stop. Go hard into what your party should be about. Don't be like, oh, but hey, do you want to join us because we think you're kind of cool. Do you want to come over to our table? No, fuck that table. Be the loudest fucking person
Welcome
in the room.
to the
Be
tent.
a problem.
Right? Remember to welcome to the Democrats' big tent. But remember whose fucking tent it is. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Tom, I think we're going to bring this thing in for a landing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure does seem like it, doesn't it?
Want to thank you for joining me here and working this thing out. And love to have you back again sometime soon.
I certainly would love that. If you guys remember me from the first episode, I also go by Linear Effect on various social medias. Linear Radio on Twitter. The On Again, Off Again YouTube channel is Linear Radio. Still holding true to that moniker of On Again, Off Again. But yeah, that is me. Your friendly, angry talking.
All right, Tom Levant. Thanks for joining Newslet. That was my conversation with the always entertaining Tom Levant. I hope our frustration with the current state of affairs in Indiana came through. I really, really, really want to see progressive Democrats especially get into this thing, jump into this race, and punch the fascist bullies in the nose. If you are out there and listening, let me know. I would love to help however I can for you and the rest of our listeners. You can find me on your social media sites at ScottRodge78, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I still haven't figured out these wacky kids and their TikToks yet. You can find my writing at scottaaronrogers.substack.com. Please subscribe. Please share. Get all your friends listening and get all your friends active in politics. Until next time, Indiana, my name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and this has been the Who's Left podcast. Love each other.